I've been meaning to make this video for a very long time because I've been making predictions about Australia here and there randomly in random videos for I would say at least about 4 years because 5 years ago I went to Europe and then I witnessed the effects of mass migration over many generations firsthand. I saw it. I was like, oh, that's what they mean by multiculturalism. So Australia was nothing like that back then. So I've been observing this, and I've been. If you go and watch my old videos, you'll probably see that it's going to happen in Australia. I always used to say that. So it's now starting to happen. So I just wanted to give you my 10 major predictions about Australia, what you're going to see over the next few years. And this is not something I'm just concocting out of thin air. I'm not making it up. Most of you would probably see that it is already happening before our eyes, but you just imagine that whatever you're looking at is going to be turned up 10 times more. Because 2 years ago, I think Australians got hoodwinked because right after COVID, unfortunately, we got the worst prime minister in Australia's history at the worst possible time. So Albanese came to power, 2022, 2023, I believe. And as soon as he came, he started bringing in 500,000 people a year. For the first couple of years, we didn't see anything. But now, my first major prediction is that you will increasingly see Aussie suburbs, especially in Melbourne and Sydney, and then it will spill over to other cities as well, which will resemble less and less Australian and more third worldly. Okay, I'm saying that it will look third worldly. Not just you will see people who look different, to which Anthony Albanese always reduces it down to, oh, these people want to go back to Australia of the 70s. They hate you because you look different. No, that we're not just talking about the aesthetics, like skin color. We're talking about the aesthetics of the whole region, not because these people look racially different, but you'll see more fly tipping. You'll see more litter on the streets. We literally have seen that in the UK, and quite recently, even in Japan. Japan was known to be one of the cleanest countries in the world because it was a part of their natural psyche, it was part of their culture. That's why hygiene was very important to them. But now, over the last year or so, they have started flooding their country in with third world migrants. And you're seeing a lot of videos now, litter everywhere, fly tipping, people leaving rubbish everywhere. That's happened in the UK. If you go to Muslim areas in the UK or even Indian areas like Southall, you will think that, oh, hang on, I'm not in London anymore. I'm in India, or I'm in Pakistan, or someplace. So you're going to see more and more of that. Right now, you're seeing that in Bankstown in Sydney, maybe Lakemba, Noble Park, Sandown Park in Melbourne. So you're seeing that now. That will start spilling over to other suburbs. It's going to happen. There's nothing you can do about it other than electing a hard right wing political party like One Nation and hope that we can reverse the trend. But as long as Labour stays in power, Australia is going to look very different from what you have been used to seeing Australia as. Number two, you'll see a sharp increase in crime. Now, the data is just undeniable. Even centrist and center leftists are not ignoring that anymore. They have recognized that people who come from third world cultures, they bring in their cultural values, theft, rape, burglaries, all of that goes through the roof. We're experiencing that in Australia on a much smaller scale. Right now, there are African gangs that are doing that. I'm sure you've seen the fire bombings of nightclubs, liquor stores, brothels, strip clubs. A Middle Eastern man even said that the person, I forgot his name, a person who's behind these attacks was using these African teenagers to carry out these attacks, but he's not extorting for money. He actually said that these things are haram. So that's one element. It's an ideological movement rather than just petty crime. So you're going to see more and more of that. You're going to basically see a lot of de facto Sharia. We observed that phenomenon in the UK nearly 10 years ago. I played so many of those videos where there are Sharia patrols, Muslims just walking around, harassing women, harassing homosexuals to go away. You've seen something similar in Australia where Muslim men have lured gay men on gay apps like Grinder, and those videos have been circulated widely. I don't have to show you. So you're going to see more of that crime that is not indigenous in nature to Australia. You know, Australians have their own fair share of criminal activities, but it won't be in nature. It won't be similar to what Aussies used to do. For example, I'll give you one example. Australians, even at the peak of our gangland warfare, Australians would not break into people's houses. They will often have drive-by shootings, but for some reason, they will not break into. They will not go inside the house. But these African gangs have shown that no, they don't care about that boundary. They love to break in. They actually go in, and some people have died, unfortunately, because that's what we mean by foreign culture. So when you bring in people from other cultures, they bring in their cultural views, cultural activities, and their type of crime. So you're going to see more of that. Now, third one, very important. Australian women. Oh, Australian women are going to are going to experience a sudden spike in violence, sexual violence against them. Some people are saying that we have already seen instances of grooming gang kind of behavior. Again, you got to understand the difference. Yes, Australia has its own fair share of PDFs, just like the UK did, but there is a new class that has emerged. So there's child sexual exploitation. In the UK, this is how they've broken it down. CSE, child sexual exploitation, and then GCSE, which is group-based child sexual exploitation. So what they have noticed is that CSE, white men take the biggest share of that child sexual exploitation. You know, that lone pedophile who's just waiting to lure a child. You know, the average stereotype. He's loitering around a school playground and whatnot. And if he gets caught, then he goes to prison. He gets secondary justice. That's Western culture. That's how Western society has been dealing with that problem. Now you bring in another culture that views children completely differently, especially infidel children. They look at white children completely differently. So what they do, they have introduced this new phenomenon, which is now referred to as GCSE, where they groom children, they ply them with alcohol, cigarettes, drugs. And if you're a 13, 14-year-old kid, if you're a vulnerable kid, again, this vulnerability they exploit. A white family would not be as eager to exploit a 14-year-old girl as someone who's come from a foreign culture who views infidels as lowly creatures. So their attitude towards them is different. And one community stands out in Britain. This is the British Pakistani community, not British Sikhs, not even British Bengali Muslims. You know, British Bengali Muslims have their own criminal problems, but they are not overwhelmingly disproportionately represented in the grooming gang scene. So it's British Pakistani, and when you break it further down, which part of Pakistan? There's Mirpuri Pakistani. So 50% of British Pakistanis are from this region called Mirpur. So even that region is very backward in Pakistan. Even mainstream Pakistani society doesn't. I'm just trying to. I'm not putting anyone down, any community down. I'm just trying to give you as much information as possible so you can understand why people behave in a certain manner and why cultures matter. So people from that cultural background exploited young children, plied them with alcohol and all these kind of things, and they created this substance dependency, and then they exploited them. Once they've got this child under their thumb, under their control, then what we observed, some of the most horrific crimes perpetrated, and that carried on for decades. And then what's more interesting is the fact that the establishment, that includes of local councillors, police members, even MPs, what they discovered that for some reason, they were covering it up. Some were explicitly involved in it. Some people had their interests tied to it, but some people just hid it because they didn't want the Muslim community to be demonized. So they covered it up for a long time. They denied, but now they're trying to rewrite history. Now they're saying, yep, a couple of reports have come out, like Casey Baroness' report has come out, and they have said, look, okay, in GCSE, it's Muslims, it's British Pakistani Muslims, British Mirpuri Pakistani Muslims. So fair enough, you could make an argument, so it's not all Muslims, but there is an element that can exist there. So this is why we've seen, let me show you, for example, this thing was in the news yesterday. This is just one example, okay? The longer time I spend, the more I can find these examples. Look at this. For example, look at this. 2 men charged over alleged attempted kidnapping of a woman in Liverpool, Sydney. They were Middle Eastern. There was another news story, I think a month ago. If I find it, I'll probably show that to you as well. They were also Middle Eastern Muslims. They horrifically are an Aussie woman. So there is an element, there is a room for Middle Eastern Muslim men to look at white women as dirty infidels beneath them, because some grooming gang perpetrators, some perpetrators from that scandal, even said it outright, like these white bees, or they call them all kinds of dehumanizing names. They said that they're just for one purpose, which is that. So when you point these statistics out to lefties or people who make excuses for third world migrants, they say, well, white men do that too. It's true, but until Australia was a mainly homogenous society of white Europeans, Anglo-Australians, I would say, let's say until 2010, okay? 2015, people were 90% of Australia was white Australia. Big percentage of them were Anglo-Australians. Sexual violence, domestic violence was constantly coming down. Each year was better than the year before. Why? Because of homogenous society. There was a whole weight of society behind ending the scourge of domestic violence and sexual violence against women. So each year things were good. And not just that, just like also road casualties were also going down, because it's easier to train men from a homogenous society than men coming in from totally different alien cultures. For example, so if you bring in a Sudanese person, a Sudanese child, even if he grows up in Australia, even if he's born and raised in Australia, he's not going to see your anti-domestic violence, anti-sexual crime violence ads as a person who is culturally Australian. He's just not going to see it like that. Why? Because his father is behaving in a totally different manner. An Australian father will be behaving in a completely different manner. Yes, some Australians do perpetrate these crimes. Domestic violence is an issue, but he will be shamed for it. I remember this massive campaign in the 2010s, which meant something like violence against women, Australia says no. Those things, those subliminal messages were actually working. Now, imagine this. I think this is Bangladesh or something. Imagine this. You bring in this family to Australia, because this is what's happening. That's the quality of people who are migrating to Europe. And that's what's going to be coming to Australia too. I've been saying it for a long time. It's happening. You guys know it. It's not even a prediction anymore. You bring in that person and you play him that ad. Violence against women, Australia says no. What do you think? What kind of an impact is going to have on him? Forget about him. Even his children are not going to take that seriously, because they have seen one way. This is how you get disobedient women in line. The whole village is enjoying the show, basically. Look at this. This is how the young person getting. I'm not going to play the whole video, but you get the point. So what do you think is going to happen? And then the reason why I'm telling you this, their philosophy is completely wrong. That's why it's never going to yield a good result. According to Anthony Albanese, if that migrant comes to Australia, there's no difference between him and you or me or Hugh Jackman or Steve Irwin.
I wonder what the distinction between Australians and migrants is, because I've never seen that used before in a country like ours. In a country like ours, you know, we have people who are in senior positions in our government, in business, you know, some of the giants of business in this country came here as refugees and as migrants. Are they separate from Australians?
So they always lean on to a tiny percentage that is successful. So he will tell you, if it were up to him, he would tell you, look at Har Sultan. Isn't he an immigrant? So let's bring in more Pakistanis. Not even 1% will be like me. And I'm not saying that as a flex. I'm saying that as a reality, because I had to completely overhaul my ideological makeup. I had to completely let go of my ancestral cultural upbringing and swap it with something else. Purely academically, though. Okay? Most people don't do that. Most people don't have time for this. They don't do it. They're born and raised in a certain culture. Their habits are fully etched into their mental psyche, and they behave and they act accordingly. So this is a false idea or a false notion that there's no difference between a migrant and an Australian. I just told you, cultures matter. You bring in 1 million Norwegians, your GDP is going to go up. Ethnic Norwegians, okay? And you bring in 1 million Bengalis or Pakistanis or Sudanese, your GDP will actually go down. We actually have statistics for that too. I've shown that so many times. See, now no one can say that. Back in the day, people, in the absence of hardcore data, hardcore statistics, we couldn't actually make a solid comment. But now we actually know. Look at this. This is the UK. This is the UK. Only white people give more than they, take, which is on average £1,444. Okay, so they are net fiscally beneficial, white people. Everyone else is a net burden. For example, net fiscal position by ethnic group, UK 2023 to 2024. Okay, an Asian family takes home £4,135 per person. Is that per person? Per year. Yeah. No, per household, sorry. And then with blacks, it goes even up. With others, it goes even up. Mix it goes up. So white families, they're paying more than they're taking. They're the only ones. So your welfare, your idea of a welfare state only works when you have more workers, when you have a culture of working more. But when you bring in people from these other third world cultures whose native, their own home countries don't give them anything. So they're like, huh? All I have to do is have more kids and make babies and the government will pay for it. Even if the government was paying for it for good reasons, that, okay, we're investing into our future, fine. But you're paying people who hate you. You are raising the next generation of Muhammad Hijabs and Ali Dawas and future ISIS recruiters. That's what you're raising. So it's a negative feedback loop, which is only going to get worse. So Australian women, sexual crime is going to go up against you. Brace yourself. We have plenty of evidence. No one can say this is racist or anything. Number 4, in the UK recently, they started a movement called Raise the Colours. You know why they had to do that? Is because you can't wave the Union Jack, because the lefties and Islamists and Muslims, even Muslims, standard Muslims, they say we are offended by that. They say we are offended by the fact that you are waving, you're hoisting the Union Jack, the flag of your country that has enabled everything for them. In Australia, we're not there yet, but we are starting to see that. I think in Victoria, it was, I think last week or this week, there was a news story because in Victoria, we have a woke Labor government. Jacinta Allen is a woke lunatic. She quietly removed the Australian flag from the uniform of prison guards and replaced it with the Aboriginal flag and the LGBTQ flag. Prison guards. So they haven't said anything. So you will see the Australian flag. It will become racist for a lot of people, and it will be stigmatized to wave the Australian flag. They wouldn't like it. So that's going to happen. You're going to see that. So you're going to have to fight it. Don't take it lying down. Even the Brits, who have literally been voluntarily giving ground to Islamists, even they said, now that's enough. That's why this movement started, called Raise the Colours. So you're going to see the Australian flag, holding the Australian flag, that's going to become racist. Just holding the flag. I also said this, and I think a lot of Australians are probably seeing that too. Although it hasn't happened yet, in the UK, they have arrested more people for social media posts than Russia or China or some of these other countries have arrested. Let me find the stats if I have them. So in the UK, more people have been arrested for social media posts than in Belarus, Germany, China, Turkey, Russia. Russia, 400. Look at this, 12,000. 12,000. I think this is more than next 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 combined. So I am expecting ordinary people, and maybe me too. This is what I've been saying for a very long time, that I'm expecting a knock on my door, especially after the newly concocted, hastily enacted hate speech laws. That's exactly what they did in the UK. Not conducive to the public good. So the UK's Home Office has this special privilege where they can arrest and even cancel people's citizenship if the Home Secretary deems something not conducive to the public good. We don't have that because our High Court, which is the highest court in Australia, has said that you can't cancel people's citizenship because this is a punishment, and the punishment can only come from the law and Australian courts, not through the executive branch of the government. So that's why I think that it's a little bit tricky, but they have created new hate speech laws. So I don't know if many people have been arrested yet over the social media posts. It hasn't happened yet in Australia, but don't be surprised if it does happen, because people running the show in Australia are the same people who have destroyed the UK, France, Germany. It's the same. It's the same cabal of people. I don't know. Even if I don't go into this conspiracy theory of the great replacement theory, it's looking more and more coordinated and organized. Even though there might not be a big long table where people are sitting on the table and they're deciding of fate, even it might not be that organized, but for some reason, their ideology, there are people who believe in this global ideology, who are taking decisions which is creating the same world for us. So it would be monumentally arrogant and naive to think it's not going to happen in Australia. So that's going to happen. You will be arrested for social media post. Hasn't happened yet, but it is likely to happen. Okay, so I thought I could go through 10 predictions. So these are my first 5 predictions about Australia, which are not really predictions because a lot of you would be saying, oh, well, come on, it's the obvious. But I've been saying that for nearly 3-4 years before it started happening. So I just thought that I should say it on camera so I can refer back to you, say, hey, I told you this in May 2026. You'll be like, not a big deal, but anyway, still something because it's going to materialize over the next couple of years. So I'll make a part 2 of this video with my next 5 predictions of Australia.